This is Lesson 5, Algebra 1, Sets, Absolute Value, Addition of Signed Numbers. We use the word set to designate a well-defined collection of numbers. So if I'm talking about a set, I may say the set A contains, and maybe that's a nasty way to write my parenthesis. It's supposed to look pretty like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, that is a set. We designate a set with those two braces, and then we put numbers in them, the numbers that we're interested in putting in our set. When we're talking about the set of natural numbers, we're talking about certain numbers here. Natural numbers include 1, 2, 3, 4, ... All the numbers that you count that we basically call counting numbers. Whenever you can have a quantity of something, that's a counting number. So it does not include fractions, does not include zeros, does not include negatives. It starts with 1 and goes on. Whole numbers, on the other hand, are only different because it includes 0. And that ... means that it goes on forever. You just continue on with that. If we include our list of negative numbers, so and we go that way and this way into infinity, those are called integers, and they include all those numbers. Alright, so the next section of this is called absolute value. And an absolute value has to do with the number line. So if I have a number line like that, and I have 0 there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This way is negative direction, and this way is the positive direction. So if I'm interested in a particular number, let's say I'm interested in 4. Alright, how far is that yellow dot from 0? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 4 away. And if I go 1, 2, 3, 4, how far is that 0 from 0? Or that 4 from 0? It's also 4. The difference is this went in a negative direction and this went in a positive direction. But they're both 4 units away from 0. So the absolute value is how far a number is from 0. That's all it is. So if we go the positive 4 direction, we put that symbol right there. That's the absolute value symbol. That means it's 4 away from 0. When I go to the left 4 and I ask for the absolute value, I'm asking how far is that from 0. It's also 4. So an absolute value, whether there's a positive number in it or a negative number in it, the answer is just the number positive because it's a distance from 0. If we had something like 7 plus 2 with absolute value, you would use that absolute value symbol very similar to a parenthesis, and you would just add the two together, and then you would write 9 to take the absolute value off. If I had 6 minus 4, absolute value sign, 6 minus 4 is 2, and take the absolute value sign off, and it's 2. So if I ask you what the absolute value of negative 7 is, you're just going to say 7. So what happens is I say, what is the absolute value of negative 7? The answer will be without the absolute value sign. And let's go a little bit further with this whole absolute value thing. Let's look at negative 20 minus 2 absolute value. So absolute value of 18. Absolute value of 18 is 18. And that negative just dragged down with us for everything that we did until we were done. Alright, so next section in this lesson is called the addition of signed numbers. And we are going to jump all the way to Let's look at example 5.2. It says use directed numbers in the number line to add 3 and -5. I do not use the number line, and I don't use some of the stuff they do in this book because I think it's easier to do it another way. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at +3, and they want us to add these, and -5. Notice whenever I use a negative, I put it in the parenthesis here, especially if if there are two signs together. There's a plus and a minus. They're right next to each other, so I put the -5 in a parenthesis. And one of the things that we're going to do is we're only going to add numbers. We're not going to subtract. We're just going to add them. And if they say subtraction, we're going to turn it into an addition problem. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to look at 3 and look at this number here, the -5, and look at the signs. One is a positive, one is a negative. The signs are different. When the signs are different, we take the difference between the two numbers. We're going to ignore the signs. Difference between a 3 and a 2 and a 5 is 2. Then we're going to look at the largest number and see what sign it's got on it and put that on our answer. And that's it. That's how you add both positive and negative numbers. What if I had -14 plus 3? All right, let's look at this. My signs are different, so I'm going to take the difference, and my biggest number is a 14, and it has a negative on it, so I'm going to put a negative, and I'm done. If I have 3 plus -6, again, put a parenthesis because the signs are right next to each other, difference between the two. And I take the difference between just the 3 and the 6, not the 3 and the -6. Difference between the 3 and the 6 is 3, and the largest number is a negative, so that goes on my answer. All right, what if the signs are the same? Well, if the signs are the same, you just add the numbers up, and after you add the numbers up, you put the sign of them on there. So if I have a 3 plus 6, well, that's just 9. What if I have a -3 plus a -6? Again, the signs are the same, so I just add them up, and I've got a sign there and there. I'm just going to put that sign on my answer. -6 plus -4. Again, put a parenthesis around there. The 6 and the 4 are both negative. I'm going to add them and put the sign on it. So if the signs are the same, you just add them and put the sign on. If the signs are different, you take the difference between the two and put the sign of the largest on it. That's pretty much it for that. So let's kind of jump. I hope I'm not jumping ahead, but anyway, we're going to do some of these. -4 plus 2 plus -1 plus, and let's put a positive on the 2 and the 5 both. Okay, so we're going to look at them two at a time. Signs are different. Put the difference between the 4 and the 2 on there. Put the negative sign on there because the 4 is bigger. And now we're going to add that answer to this one. Signs are the same. So we're going to add, put the sign on there. So we're done with all that. Now we're going to add that one. Okay, this one, we've got a negative and we have a positive. So the signs are different. We're going to take the difference between the two, put the sign of the largest one on there, and we're done. Okay, so when we run into some numbers that have negatives on there, so let's say we have 3 minus 4. All right, I said we're just going to add. We're not going to subtract. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave the negative there, but we're going to put a plus sign before it. So we're going to write 3 plus, and then we'll leave the negative there. Now we've just made it into a 3 plus -4, where you take the difference between the two because the signs are different. That's a plus, that's a minus. Signs are different. Put the sign of the largest number on your answer, and you're done. So we just, anytime we see a negative sign, we're just going to put a plus sign in front of it and then put it with the number. So that negative sign just goes there. Now the signs are the same. We add and put the sign on there, and we're done. Okay, so think that's about it. And the next video we'll go over the problem set.